long before the pyramids of Giza cut the sky, long before the throne of Tutankhamun glittered in gold. There was another kingdom, a kingdom of obsidian stone, desert lightning, and kings chosen by the hidden god Amun. For centuries, their names were erased, their temples buried, their legacy forgotten. But tonight, the sands will open, and the world will witness the rise of the Black Pharaohs of Kush. The Black Pharaohs of Kush, a full ancient mystery documentary. Long before the golden mask of Tutankhamun dazzled the modern world. Long before the pyramids of Giza claimed the skis of the Nile. Long before Egypt rose to power. There was another kingdom. A kingdom of obsidian stone and burning sun. A kingdom of desert winds and forgotten gods. A kingdom whose rulers would one day march north, seize the throne of Egypt, and be crowned pharaohs. They were called the Kushites, but history would give them another name. A name whispered in archaeology labs, in desert camps, in forbidden scrolls buried beneath 3,000 years of silence. The Black Pharaohs. For nearly a century, Egyptologists avoided their story, hid their existence, and dismissed their legacy as myth. But today, we go deep into the world of these forgotten monarchs. A world of prophecy, war, forbidden rituals, lost temples, and a dynasty that changed Africa forever. This is the full, unbroken, ancient story of the Black Pharaohs of Kush. The discovery that started everything was an accident. In 1916, a British survey team working near the Sudanese desert stumbled upon a strange mound. Not a pyramid, not a tomb, but a black stone doorway buried beneath layers of sand. The stone was smooth, eerily so, and etched into its face was a single symbol. An Ankh, but carved in a style no Egyptian scholar recognized. When the door was cleared and opened, the desert wind breathed dust from a forgotten world. Inside sat a relief of figures wearing double crowns, holding staffs shaped like serpents. But their faces were unmistakably African, adorned with braided royal hair, Nubian features, and garments older than anything from Egypt's old kingdom. A small inscription, barely legible, read, "Kings of the South, lords of the two lands, children of Amun. The pharaohs before Egypt." This was the first modern hint that Egypt had not been the first great kingdom of the Nile, but a successor to an even older one. And its rulers. They were the Kushites, once erased, now impossible to ignore. Long before Egypt knew the meaning of the word pharaoh, there was Ta-Seti, the land of the bow, the earliest known kingdom in Africa and possibly the world. Their homeland was Kush, a place of black granite cliffs, lion-filled savannas, and gold mines so deep that ancient workers said they touched the veins of the earth. Here, early Kushite kings built cities that rivaled Proto-Egypt. Cities like Kerma, with its massive temple known as the Defied, a structure older than the pyramids of Saqqara. Kerma was a kingdom of warriors and priests, of astronomers who charted the stars, and queens who commanded armies. The people carved statues of kings with resolute eyes, wide shoulders, and proud African features, kings who stood not as imitators of Egypt, but as its ancestors. In this early world, Egypt feared Kush. The Egyptians wrote of their southern neighbors as fierce archers, masters of cattle, people of unbreakable spirit. But what Egypt did not know was that Kush believed itself chosen by Amun, the hidden god, the god who would one day become Egypt's most powerful deity. The Kushites believed Amun's breath stirred the desert winds, that his voice thundered in summer storms, and that from Kush, a divine bloodline would rise to rule the world. This prophecy lived in secret temples along the Nile, and for centuries it slept. At first, Egypt and Kush traded. Gold for grain, ebony for copper, ivory for papyrus. But kingdoms never remain equals for long. By Egypt's Middle Kingdom, pharaohs began pushing south, seeking to control the gold mines of Kush. Fortresses were built, armies marched, Kushite lands were seized. But Kush did not die. Far from it. While Egypt rose and fell, Kush watched, waited, rebuilt, evolved. Until eventually, the day came when Egypt itself collapsed during the Late Bronze Age. Kush saw its chance. A new capital rose, Napata, at the foot of the sacred mountain Jebel Barkal, the mountain the Kushites believed was the birthplace of Amun himself. Priests proclaimed, "A new dynasty will rise from the south, a dynasty the gods have chosen." And in the shadows of this prophecy, a man emerged. His name was Piye. History would call him the first Black Pharaoh. Piye did not see himself as a foreigner to Egypt. In his mind, and in the teachings of the Kushite priesthood, he was reclaiming a legacy that had been corrupted. Egypt was weak, divided, torn between warring princes and desperate generals. Piye marched north, not as an invader but as a purifier. His army was unlike anything Egypt had seen. Tall Kushite archers, cavalry riding desert stallions, priests carrying sacred standards, royal guards whose skin was painted with gold dust. And wherever Piye went, cities surrendered willingly. They believed the prophecy. They believed the South had come to save the North. When Piye reached the Delta, he performed a ritual unseen for centuries. He entered the temple of Amun, laid offerings of incense, gold, and lion skins, and declared himself Nesibit, king of Upper and Lower Egypt. The 25th dynasty had begun. Egypt had its Black Pharaohs. After Piye came Shabaka, a ruler so wise he preserved ancient Egyptian philosophy on a stone slab known today as the Shabaka stone. On this stone was a doctrine older than Moses, older than the Vedas, older than Greece. Creation through the Word. Creation through the divine mind. Shabaka believed these teachings were being lost, so he carved them into eternal granite, a gift from Kush to the world. Shabaka rebuilt temples, restored ancient rituals, returned dignity to Egypt. Under him, Egypt and Kush were one, a united Nile kingdom stretching from the Mediterranean to the heart of Africa. But darkness was coming. From the east, an empire unlike any before it. The Assyrians. The Assyrians were brutal, efficient, merciless. Their armies crushed everything in their path. When they entered Egypt, even the combined strength of Kushite archers, chariots, and divine blessing struggled to stand against iron weapons and siege machines. Cities fell. Temples burned. The Nile wept. Yet the Kushite rulers refused to surrender. They evacuated to the south, back to Nubia, where their kingdom endured for nearly 1,000 more years. Egypt fell, but Kush lived on. And in their homeland, the Black Pharaohs built something astonishing. Pyramids, hundreds of them, more than Egypt itself. The pyramids of Kush rose at Nuri, El Kuru, and Meroitic, sharp and steep, piercing the desert sky. Inside were rulers forgotten by the world. Taharka, the mighty warrior king. Tanutamani, the last pharaoh to dream of uniting the Nile. And dozens of warrior queens, Candaces, who led armies and negotiated with Rome. One of these queens was Amun, the Candake who fought Rome itself. When the Romans took Egypt, they demanded Kush bow. Kush refused. Amun, blind in one eye, led her soldiers north. They ambushed Roman garrisons, decapitated statues of Caesar, and carried the bronze head of Augustus back to Meroitic as a trophy. Rome, stunned, sued for peace. Kush was one of the few kingdoms on earth that Rome treated as an equal. The legacy continued through queens like Amenishikhedo, Amenitter, and Shanakdakhet, rulers who built temples, pyramids, and vast cities in the desert. But time is a thief. A shift in trade routes. The decline of iron. The rise of Axum across the Red Sea. Slowly the kingdom faded. When European explorers first saw the Meroitic pyramids in the 19th century, they assumed they were looking at small Egyptian copies. They were wrong. These pyramids were older than many in Egypt, steeper, mathematically unique, aligned to star constellations, and filled with inscriptions in a writing system still not fully decoded today. To this day, the Meroitic language remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, a script with symbols that whisper of lost science, lost history, and a world still waiting to be understood. Many archaeologists believe that if Meroitic is ever fully translated, it may contain the missing history of the 25th dynasty, origin stories of the Kushite people, names of rulers erased by Egypt, records of trade with ancient West Africa, and possibly clues about the mythic roots of early civilization. The pyramids of Kush are not just tombs. They are codes. Codes waiting to be decoded. Modern archaeology confirms what ancient texts hinted. The Black Pharaohs were not outsiders, not invaders, not imitators, but true heirs of the Nile, older than Egypt and equal in complexity. DNA studies show deep sub-Saharan ancestry in Kushite rulers. Statues recovered from Napata show unmistakably African facial features. Temple art shows queens wielding power equal to kings. For too long, Western history ignored this. But today, truth rises like the desert sun. Africa had empires. Africa had science. Africa had pharaohs. After the fall of Meroitic, something unnerving occurred. The pyramids were abandoned. The temples were sealed. The priests vanished. And the entire civilization seemed to dissolve into the sands. Some say climate change destroyed them. Some say Axum conquered them. Some say trade collapse ended them. But the local Nubians tell a different story. A legend older than Islam, older than Rome, older than memory. They say that on the night Meroitic finally fell, a great procession of priests carried sacred objects, scrolls, statues, relics, into the desert. They walked beneath the stars, chanting the name of Amun, until they reached a hidden valley. There they buried their secrets. A buried library, a lost treasury, a forgotten archive of the Black Pharaohs. To this day, no one has found it. But desert nomads whisper. The sands shift. One day, Amun will reveal what he hides. Today, the world begins to remember. Archaeologists uncover lost temples near Jebel Barkal. The pyramids of Meroitic rise again in documentaries and books. African scholars reclaim the legacy of Kush. And the story of the Black Pharaohs, once buried, now returns to the throne of history. The dynasty of Piye, Shabaka, and Taharka stands not as a footnote, but as one of the greatest empires Africa ever saw. A kingdom of mystery, a kingdom of power, a kingdom of divine kings and warrior queens, a kingdom whose story is far from finished, because the desert still holds secrets. And one day, we may uncover the true history of the Black Pharaohs of Kush. Their pyramids still stand. Their queens still whisper through broken stone. Their legacy survives in every grain of sand that the desert guards. The Black Pharaohs of Kush were more than rulers. They were visionaries, warriors, philosophers, and protectors of ancient knowledge.